We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today. Welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is the Ask Gibbo show tonight. No Supermax, sadly. He's out on injury leave. And I'm pretty sure he's prolonging this because Chris Wood's scoring goals every week. I think that's what it's probably down to. But anyway, welcome, John. How are you?
I'm good, my friend. I'm good. Actually, I could do with Supermac playing for us at the moment. We're not scoring goals. I think he could welcome and do a great job for us because he's just a fading memory at the moment. We need somebody like that.
Yeah, sadly, he is, and he would be greatly received. Anybody who can put the ball in the back of the net would be greatly received at the moment. And let's start on the negatives, John, which was a defeat. If you remember, my prediction last week was a 1-0 win. I wasn't confident of goals. A few people who do this this program over the course of the 7 days, Sid on a Tuesday predicted a 3-3 draw, but we just don't look capable of scoring goals at the minute. But at the back, which is where we had a problem last season, we were leaking goals, week in, week out. We've really tightened up. So 21 shots, John, 5 one-on-ones. We should have been out of sight last weekend.
Yeah, it should have been a win, and that's really something that dismayed me. Watching the game live, you would be doing the same, Steve. Chance after chance after chance. It's amazing how the game flips, isn't it? Season to season, the Newcastle situation. I mean, 2 seasons ago, when we qualified for the Champions League, we had a terrific defence. I think we let in about 17 goals or something. We set the record for the Premier League, the best team in the Premier League with Man City, I think. Then last season, we absolutely leaked goals left, right and centre, but we scored a pile. We scored 80-odd goals last season. This season, we can't hit a barn door at 3 paces. I mean, in the last 4 matches we've played, Steve, League and League Cup, that's 6 hours of football. We've scored 2 goals and they were both penalties. We haven't scored a solitary single goal from open play. And that's what worries me. A lot of people have said to me, Steve, if we keep playing, like we did against Brighton, the goals will come, etc., etc. But will they? We played Everton off the park and couldn't score. We played Brighton for a lot of the time off the park and couldn't score. We're just not getting any goals from anywhere at all. And what really bugged me was that I had kept trumpeting on about we must beat Everton and we must beat Brighton. And I thought we would do both those things before the games because I wanted those 6 points in the bag so that when we played Chelsea away and Arsenal at home, we already had a comfort zone, that if we got a couple of draws, so what? We've just taken 6 points. But we've blown that spectacularly. We've got 2 points out of the last 12 and 2 very, very tough matches to come in the league. So it hasn't looked good. It hasn't looked good, mate.
Has it shocked you how Isak started the season? I mean, last season, mate, banging the goals in like Mal. But this season, I mean, he was my prediction to be like top goal scorer in the Premier League. But I mean,
Yeah.
He's struggling to make 10 at the minute.
Well, Mal said to me before the season started, Supermac, he said, I think he could get the Golden Boot ahead of Haaland. I mean, look at Haaland's total. He's just continues and continues. And he's had 25 goals last year. Absolutely fabulous. One this season, and it was a tap in from 2 yards that won it against Spurs. And don't get me wrong, he's a fabulous player. He's an absolutely wonderful player. But he's a shadow. The whole of this season, he's been a shadow of the man he was last season. He doesn't look strong. He doesn't look confident. It's very, very worrying because he's not looked anything like he has looked. And when you think of that and you think of the situation at outside right, where, quite frankly, we haven't got one, there's 2 of the 3 positions up top that are very, very dodgy for Newcastle. Anthony Gordon on the left, that's fine. 2 positions are absolutely dodgy, and we're beginning to reap the lack of reward through that being the situation. We haven't addressed in the transfer market getting an outside right or getting an experienced cover centre forward. Because if you look at Wilson, I mean, well, you can't look at Wilson. He's not there to be seen. He's never there. It's absolutely incredible. So that when we struggle for a goal like we did at Everton and like we did at against Brighton, and you look to the bench, you haven't got Callum Wilson on there. I mean, goodness gracious, he's never been seen all season. And we elected to spend up to 15 million, 10 million down on a Sule, who might turn out to be a terrific striker. But obviously, Eddie doesn't rate him at the moment at all because he didn't get on at Everton and he got on the 90th minute on against Brighton. So we haven't got an alternative centre forward, which makes the Isaac situation even more terrifying. And we haven't got an outside right at all.
Yeah, it's worrying in that respect, but positive, John. Let's try and gain some positives out of it, and that really is the fact that Newcastle are creating the chances, and you're just hoping that we are going through a period of a barren period, which all forwards go through, and that, as George affectionately calls it on this program, a shellacking is around the corner for somebody. It would be great if it was against one of the next couple of oppositions. I doubt it, but you never know. Football's a funny old game, somebody once said.
That would be terrific, Steve. But we keep saying a hammering. We're going to hammer someone that's just round the corner. The trouble is, every time we turn a corner, we walk into a cul-de-sac. I mean, that's the trouble at the moment. We don't look as if we're going to get the goals. Isaac is a worry. I don't think he's as strong and as fit as he normally is and likes to be. And that is sort of impacting on us. Yeah, if we're going to look for any sort of positives, and it's really clinging to flotsam, but Gordon signed a new contract. That's terrific. I mean, I'm thrilled to bits about that. He is a top player. I think he's got his vibrance back. At the beginning of the season, he looked as wishy-washy as Isaac was. He had the cares of the world on his shoulders, etc. He signed this new contract, and yes, I know he missed a 1-1 against Brighton as Isaac did, but he's looking bright and breezy again. And if we get a contract put before Isaac, and he deserves it. I mean, this is temporary. Loss of form's temporary. Ability is permanent, and he's got ability. He will come back again, but it's in the meantime we haven't any backup to him, and so we struggle. We couldn't pick 3 harder games to sort of get our form back, Steve, than Chelsea away, Chelsea at home, and Arsenal. If you put the League Cup match in there, so it is a tough old time, but we've got to believe that it'll come right. I do honestly think that we're now paying for 3 bad transfer windows, and we have had bad transfer windows. And the difference it's made for me, Steve, these bad windows, is that in this time we have watched Aston Villa with the manager who turned us down, incidentally.
Yeah.
We've watched them come from way behind us, not only catch us up, but overtake us. And they, I think, have been cleverer in the transfer market than we have. For example, they're in the same situation, the new kids on the block with a great history like us, but new kids on the block in terms of doing well again. But they have been clever, and they've got the same restrictions. They've got financial fair play, etc., etc. But they've been clever in the transfer market. I mean, if you look at them, Steve, they qualified from fourth top for the Champions League, exactly as we had done a year before them. But what did they do in the summer? They got round financial fair play by astutely selling to give them wiggle room to buy. And they were very clever in that. I mean, now they offloaded two of their best players, Louise to Serie A and Diaby, and got £100 million in, and then went out and bought Onana and Matson and etc. etc. Now, to get rid of those two players when you've just qualified for the Champions League is very, very gutsy. Excuse me. Very, very gutsy. And it's worked because the new guys are flying. They're fourth top again now. They're 5 points ahead of us. They're fourth, we are ninth. And they've won their 3 Champions League matches they've played. So, when we talk about the restrictions that we've had and how tough it is with the financial fair play, etc., etc., the same rules apply to Villa, but they've handled it better. What we don't do, Steve, is we don't sell well. We sell in a panic, Anderson and Menta, but we don't sell well. And what happens? Players that we could have got a few quid for, like Callum Wilson, like Trippier, and like Almiron a year ago, their value is just running down. I mean, we get nothing for Wilson now. He's a free at the end of the season and he's injured. So we're getting out in January from him. Almiron's gone from 25 million to 20 million to probably 15 million. And Trips is 34 now. We're going to get peanuts because we didn't sell them at the right time. But you've got to sell somebody to get around these ridiculous rules, financial fair play. And Villa sold Louise, who was their top hitter in midfield, by the way. They sold him to Italy, and they prospered. And I think we've got to be cuter, Steve.
We have to be. And the news coming out of the Daily Mail tonight with Craig Hope getting an exclusive is that, wait for it, John, Callum Wilson has had a setback on his return. He's set to miss another 3 games.
Well, first of all, don't make me smile. I've got a split lip. I mean, on his return, what return? I mean, when did we last see him? I think Lord Lucan was attending the Newcastle matches, and Shergar was in the paddock when we last saw Wilson, wasn't he? I mean, I can't believe we just don't see him. I mean, the only report we get is that he's very close, and then he's not close at all. By the way, how did he get the injury to start with? Because it was in training. And how does he keep getting these setbacks? Because he isn't getting tackled, he's getting it in training. I mean, if ever there's a bloke, and I feel sorry for him because he's a wonderful player, and it's not very good for him himself, is it? But have we been too loyal to him? Yes, we have, in capital letters. Yes, we have. And I'm not a genius to say that. I've been saying it. You've been saying it. 50,000 Geordies have been saying it. There's only Eddie, bless him, that hasn't been saying it. It is an absolute nonsense. And if I wasn't a Newcastle fan, I would be saying Newcastle United are getting what they deserved. They bought 2 outside lefts. They already had Gordon and they buy Harvey Barnes. Why do you buy Harvey Barnes when you've got Gordon? Why not buy an outside right? And why not buy a centre forward that's going to be backup to Isaac that can score goals? Not a £15 million kid for the future. Because we've got to be concerned about the present, not the future. And Callum Wilson, bless him, I mean, he's the past. I mean, it really is a nonsense. It is a nonsense. And as good as we were in the transfer market initially and were wonderful when the takeover first happened in any first game, we were absolutely wonderful. Everything was spot on the nail. But now we're poor in the transfer market and we've got to get more lively. We spent the whole of the summer wondering whether to spend 70 million on a centre half, couldn't pull it off, and didn't get an outside right and got a kid to cover as third striker when we didn't have a second striker. We are paying a cost for that now. Are we surprised we're not scoring goals, mate, when we haven't bought an outside right and we haven't bought a ready-made centre forward?
I mean, it's frustrating. There's no other words for it. And at the end of the day, Callum Wilson to me now is like he's a name on a bit of paper. It's and it's certainly not a team sheet. It's literally just this. He's taking a place in the squad, and it's a waste of a place because we can't play him. It's sad because statistically, with his goals and his appearances when he has played, he scored goals. But it's just so sad. It really is. It's so sad that his career is going to literally just splutter out. He's not I'm not even sure we'll see him again. And people are quite right in the chat saying, people saying get rid of him. I mean, who in their right mind is going to buy him on the current injury run?
I mean, what's going to happen now, the way he is you cannot get rid of him in January because nobody will take him, as you've already said. He'll go at the end of the season on a free transfer, and we've allowed him to run down like that instead of being ahead of the field and doing something. We're reactive instead of proactive. In what have we done about outside right? I mean, Miggy was the last one we bought. If you forget about Minter, who came in and went out like Lord Lucan, we never saw him either. I mean, he just disappeared. So we are reaping what we've sowed, and it is an absolute nonsense. Are we too loyal to certain players? I think, although I don't want to really believe it, I think the answer to that is an unequivocal yes. We're too loyal to Wilson. We've been too loyal to Almiron, etc., etc. The people that we could have allowed to go and cash in on. Villa did it with Louise. Villa did it with Diaby. We haven't done it at all. And brothers are coming home to roost because we would have got a few quid for Wilson, say 2 winters ago. Only a few quid, but would have maybe got 15 million. We're going to get nothing now. We would have got 25 million for Almiron. We're not going to get 15 now. What are we going to get for trips? We had the chance to sell them. We wanted to keep them. And we kept them. Their value has gone further down, and further down. Now, where's the wiggle room? Who we're going to sell now for a decent price to create a situation where we can bring people in?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got lots of questions coming in, so I will come to them. Stephen, I've got no idea what on earth you're going on about. He says, question by Stephen John. I found out today that you are not keen on big, ripe Logan berries. What on earth this means? So my question is, we can answer this bit. What is your go-to soft fruit? And is John partial to Logan berries? I've got no idea what Logan berries are.
I mean, what is? I knew the rocking berries, nowadays, and chick berries, and but I mean, no. I
like grapes, mate. I like grapes, whether it's in the form of red wine or whether they're just grapes in a packet.
I like grapes in the form of white wine, not so much as in a packet. But I like blueberries. I think they're terrific. But honestly, I hope Mr. K tells us what he's talking about before the end of the show, because it is interesting.
It is, yeah. I'm not sure I presume he meant me, but I'm not sure what on earth he means with regards to Logan berries. And I've never heard of them, so I couldn't say whether I like them or not. Tom Dixon says, question for John. Would you be happy if Newcastle needed to sell this January And would Harvey Barnes be the man to go? I think Tom's been reading the Chronicle because there was a little piece in there about potentially getting rid of. I did laugh when I saw the photographs of Almiron, Wilson, and Trippier. I thought, well, bloody hell, we've tried to get rid of these in the past, and nobody will take them. You can add Matt Target to that list as well. But yeah, I have seen some articles suggesting that Harvey Barnes could be a person to go to help PSR.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you get to the bottom line, somebody's got to go that will produce a certain amount of money, like 30 or 40 million. You know, if you put all those other three together, you might get 30 million. But somehow somebody's got to go. Louise was the top man at Aston Villa. He went for almost 50 million. Now, Aston Villa supporters would initially be shocked. We've just made the Champions League and you're selling the bloke that got way into the Champions League. But I tell you what, they did that and they got rid of Diaby as well. But they then have brought in good players and they've improved. They've actually improved. They've won all three. I mean, they beat Bayern Munich in the Champions League, and that was their Paris Saint-Germain when we did that result. But then in the rest of the Champions League, we didn't get results. They've won 3 out of 3 in the Champions League. You've got to get rid of somebody. That being the case, you're certainly not going to want to get rid of Gordon, and he's signed a long-term contract. You're certainly not wanting to get rid of Isaac, because even though he's in the form he's in, he's quality. So who do you get rid of that'll make decent money? Joe Linton would, Bruno would, and I would sell Harvey Barnes if I had to sell one of the big ones. You know why? Because he wouldn't weaken the side, because Anthony Gordon is a better outside left than Harvey Barnes is, although Barnes scores more goals. Gordon's a better outside left. So yes, I would cash in on him, because you're going to have to cash in on him or Bruno. Or Joe Linton, and I would cash in on Barnes.
It's funny, Mark Byers says I'd sell Bruno. He says if anyone offered anywhere near 80 million, I mean, it's amazing to think that people would even consider selling Bruno now after, the way that he was revered by fans when he first arrived. But I guess it shows where the support is, John, where fans are. People are quite rightly feeling a bit down, but, it's still early in the season, John. Nothing's won or lost on the 24th of October. I guess I'm still the eternal optimist inside, but I can see why people are feeling down. But having said that, a draw at Stamford Bridge, a win in the cup, and a win against Arsenal were suddenly world beaters, and we're heading towards the top of the league, and we're into the last 8 of the cup. So a week's a long time in football, John, and I know we'll come to that.
Are you going to take those results as being your predictions, or do you think we will get a draw?
Well, you'll have to wait. You'll have to wait and see. You'll have to wait and see.
If we had got the results we ought to have got against Everton and against Brighton, we would be sitting comfortably. But I mean, and the only reason I'm getting angry, Steve, is because I'm a Newcastle United fan, and in my humble opinion, and it's only my opinion, and often mine's not the one that counts, but we could see this coming.
Of course
we could see this coming, and did nothing about it. I'm talking about the club in the transfer market.
Yeah, Jules says, no need to sing this, Steve Wraith, but things can only get better. There you go, Jules, just for you.
He said there was no need for you to sing it, and now you've spoiled the whole thing. By the way, that's a myth as well, because things can get worse as well as better, I mean, if we, and heaven forbid, and I've got to get out of this mood, but if we lost to Chelsea and lost to Arsenal, or drew with Arsenal, so it was 1 point out of 6 to go with it 2 points out of 12, things have got worse, mate.
Yeah, Stephen Kennedy has made it quite clear He came to see me on stage today, John. I've been performing this afternoon, and we're doing a read through of Arthur Mackenzie's play, one of Arthur Mackenzie's new writings, and it was fantastic. So Stephen, and I remember who you are now. We did say hi briefly when I was coming in, but he didn't want to butt in while I was working. He said, "So Stephen, next time you come down, come and say hello, and we'll have a proper chat, mate. We'll always hang around afterwards if you want to do that. But great to see you, Stephen. Briefly, thank you. Jules has got the three emojis of a monkey with the hands over the ears. And Steve, says Steve, that was something, but singing.
well,
Stephen Kennedy was waiting for us to jump in today in the play when the blonde started singing Celine Dion. Ah, yes, I only sing occasionally, mate. I only sing occasionally.
Using the word singing very loosely, I presume.
Aye, definitely. Okay, let's get another question in before we go to the ads. Krista Johnson says, good evening. Is Joe Linton more suited to be our captain, John? I think so, not Bruno. What do you think?
That's a very, very good question. And it was a good question. It was a good remark by one of the listeners earlier when he said, we were talking about Harvey Barnes perhaps going, he said he would sell Bruno. If you got 100 million for Bruno, and I don't think for 1 second you would, but that's his buyout clause. I don't think for 1 second you would. He is quality, but he is not quite what he is. I would, if I had to sell Bruno, Gordon, or Isaac, I would sell Bruno, because I think he's not quite, ironically, since he was made captain, which has brought this up, his form hasn't looked as good as it was. He is, as hard as it is to say this, as harsh as it is to say this, he is one paste. He is one pace. And you used to be able to get away with that. In the old days, when we were in the 70s, Tommy Cassidy was one pace, but he was a brilliant passer of the ball, and you could get round it. Liverpool had John Mulby. He had one pace, and that was dead slow. But you could get round it because he could pass the ball. These days, some people are running off the back of Bruno very, very easily because he's not quick. He can't accelerate and catch you up. He is not having his best season, nor is he having his best season with Brazil either. But don't let's lose sight of the fact that he's absolute quality. But I think he got rated so highly when he first come because he was the first guy through the door with trips. And all of a sudden we saw this quality and said, can we believe Newcastle United have got this quality? Now, as the standard of Newcastle United gets higher and higher and higher, then Bruno gets caught up on quality, and you look at Isaac and think he's got quality as well, or more so. You look at Gordon and think he's got it, or more so, perhaps. So, yes, and I'm not certain that the captaincy has done too much for Bruno. I think he's very proud of it, and he's very proud of Geordie's loving him, etc., etc. But Joe Linton could, to a great extent, be the better of the two for captaincy. But these guys have got to do what Gordon did. Isaac and Bruno to a certain extent, and Joe Linton to a certain extent, have got to get the form back in the way Anthony Gordon has. They've got to get out there and say, look, we love the adulation. We got praise heaped upon us when we got the fourth top and played in the League Cup final, etc., etc. Now, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And we need them to pull the team up by the bootlaces and put us back to where we were 2 years ago.
Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can contact them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Contact them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, or telephone 01670 632 460, or mobile 0791 666 4174. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And don't forget, we are also a podcast, and you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, you can hit the like button, which is the little thumb under each video. You can click the share button to share it to other social media, or subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button, and it is for free. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the join button, and you can join the channel for $1.99 a month to help support us. We do promote events on this channel. Derek Wright is holding his official book launch at the Tyneside Irish Centre, 15th of November. Tickets are £22, and that does include a signed book. Tickets are from newcastlelegends.com. Gold Star Promotions and Gateshead Leisure Centre are bringing Lennox Lewis to the area as part of his UK tour. You can get tickets by calling 0191 250 5066. Tickets start at £39. The Long Sands are back in aid of Dementia Matters and being supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band. Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets £15 from newcastlelegends.com or from the Clooney box office. Peter Beardsley will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January, 2025. Tickets are available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. An Evening with the Entertainers takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House, the 24th of January 2025. You can buy tickets for that now from the box office 0844 249 1000 or from the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge is now open at Gateshead Leisure Centre. 7 tokens for £99. Call 0191 250 5066 to book your tickets today. And the first of those tokens will be the 31st of January, an evening with Lee Clark. If you just want to buy tickets separately, call 0191 250 5066. And the book everyone's talking about, The Entertainers, 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, is on sale now. The book will be posted out on the 1st of December, written by Will Scott. Over 30 contributors to this book. newcastlelegends.com or Amazon to buy it today. Okay, welcome back. Peter, I lost your second question, but I did get your first one. He says, hi, John. When a club gets bought by new owners, can players rip up their contracts if they don't want to play for the new owners?
No.
Simple as that. Simple answer to a simple question. John Askew was talking about this earlier. He says, evening all. John, if the council and or pressure groups make it impossible to relocate in the city centre, talking about the stadium obviously, would you reluctantly accept moving to Gosforth or Ponteland? What is the alternative?
Well, I would be absolutely decimated if we move out of town. And yes, I mean, I've talked a lot on podcasts about the hurdles. It's almost like a Grand National course for Newcastle to get round in terms of a new stadium, because it is not up to them. It is up to a series of people, whether it's a council, whether it's friends of Lees's park, etc., etc. There's so many people that have got to produce agreement with them. And of course, even at St. James's Park, the ground isn't owned by Newcastle United, it's on lease. I mean, if we couldn't get to anywhere around where we are now, like in Lees's Park, etc., etc., I'd be very tempted to say, let us completely rebuild St. James's Park itself, pull it down in stages and rebuild it, which to a great extent is what John Hall did, or 2/3 of it, when the Entertainers were coming to town. I mean, you've got to accept almost anything in the end because it isn't up to us. And the simple answer is I'm not going to start not supporting Newcastle United because I don't like where the ground is. But I would hate it to be outside of the city centre. And I do believe with all my heart that the club will do everything they can to either rebuild St James's Park on the site it's on or be next door to this site. I think it would only be a desperation that they moved away out of town. It may come to that. We've certainly can't continue with St James's Park the way it is now because it's not big enough and it's not good enough. And it's beginning to fray at the edges. So something's got to happen and got to happen quickly.
Yeah, okay. Lots of comments. Let's try and get a few different ones and talk about a few different ones. I love this one. Blue Rhythm Boy says, which NUFC icons would make up John's Newcastle United Football Club Mount Rushmore? You can pick players, managers, owners, tea ladies. They're all allowed. So, of course, Mount Rushmore, the wall of presidents. How many presidents have they got on there in the USA? I'm not sure. Should we just go with 4 prominent ones, John?
I was going to say they've had about 48 presidents in America, but are you talking about people
who made a difference at the club? Players, managers. Who would your 4 top picks were? Not just necessarily players. They're broadening the horizon.
Not necessarily for statues, just to be acknowledged as for people that have done.
If you were going to do a Mount Rushmore. 4 carvings.
Oh, yes. Which people would you have? I'm with you totally. Yes, that's a terrific question. Off the top of my head, I mean, yeah, I mean, you would. I mean, how would you go beyond Alan Shearer being one of them, considering he's the club's top goal scorer in the whole history of 130 years? So he would have to be one of them. And to a certain extent, Stan Seymour would have to be one of them because how many people have included in what they've done? He, with Newcastle United, won the top flight championship and the FA Cup, which are the 2 greatest trophies to be won in his era when there was no Europe. He was in the 1927 side that won the championship. We've never won it since. And he won the FA Cup. He was brought back when Newcastle were in a desperate situation. He was brought back into the boardroom and he was chairman and manager in the 50s when they won the FA Cup all those times. So how many players have ended up have been also managers and chairman of the club? He's done all of those. I know, amazingly, Frank Clark's done that at Nottingham Forest. But I think you would have to put Stan Seymour in there without a shadow of a doubt. This, just for a bit of fun, I would put Kath the tea lady in there because I loved her to death. And she was the lovely, lovely lady that looked after us in the press room at St James's Park for absolutely yonks and adored Newcastle United. And I always remember, tales about Kath are legendary. I always remember that if Newcastle, she loved Jackie Milburn. She loved him as a player. And then when he was in the press room as a press man, she got to know him and absolutely adored him. And when we had a bad result, etc., after the game, she had a framed picture of him she always put out on the table next to the urn with the tea in it. And after the game, if we'd lost, she would turn it round because she didn't want Jackie to have to face and hear the press conference was going to be heard with all the excuses why we were rubbish. And I also remember when the infamous day when Kieran Dyer and Lee Bowyer decided to contest the Northern Area flyweight title on St James's Park, when we were both sent off against Aston Villa. After the game, I think it was it Souness at the time, brought them both out to face the press to apologise. And just as he was going to start this very intense press conference, Kath walked up onto the stage with a cup of tea, put it down in front of the manager, which she did every press conference, and says, "There's your cup of tea, Graham. Enjoy yourself." And it brought howls of laughter because this was going to be the sort of showdown of all showdowns. And there was Kath, bless her, bringing her cup of tea. So the people behind this, she would represent all the faceless hundreds of people that have done well for this club and are never seen and never mentioned. She has still got her picture, etc., displayed prominently in the press room at St James's Park, and that's the way it should be. So, I mean, I would take Seymour because he would represent the player, he would represent the manager, and he would represent the boardroom. So, I think that's vitally important. I would probably put Jackie Milburn in there as the fourth, just because he come from the pit town of Ashington, and his story will never be repeated. Coming to St James's Park for a trial, eating 2 pork pies on the outside the ground for his lunch before he went in, had the trial, rubbish in the first half, told at half time, "You're not going to make it, son." So scored 6 goals in the second half of the public trial and become a legend. So probably he would be the fourth.
Great stuff. I love it when you get asked a question. You've got to think on top of your head, John, but you did remarkably well, as always, mate. True professional. Darren says, "Hi, John. Hi, Steve. I think the top 4 has gone, in my opinion. What do you think?" Well, I'll give John a breather. The treble is still on, Darren, because we're still in the Carabao Cup. But the FA Cup will come in January. And we're not a million miles away from the top because Man City and Arsenal aren't playing that well. And by the end of this week, it could all look a lot different, Darren. So at the moment, the treble is still on. Never mind the top 4, Darren. John?
Never mind the treble, the quadruple's still on because we can win the Northumberland Senior Cup as well. I'm pretty convinced of that. So we can add that to a bunch of Laurel and Hardys that we're going to get. I think the top 4, I just saw it. I just waved to it out of the window just before as I saw it disappearing south. I think it'll be a miracle to make the top 4 if we're realistic, because we would have to hang on somehow to January and then have the greatest January we've ever had, and that in terms of the transfer market. And that is the hardest of the transfer windows. The summer one, clubs are willing to sell because they've got time to buy a replacement themselves because they've got 3 or 4 months. January, what top players? I know we got Anthony Gordon in January, but that was quite a unique situation because he'd fallen out with Everton, he'd fallen out with the fans, he was desperate to go. They wanted to get some dough because the situation had gone sour. So that was unique. Those situations don't happen. It is very difficult to buy a boatload of players in January. So I would love to be like you, and I know you were saying it with a little tongue in the cheek because I could see the tongue in the cheek there when I was watching. But I would love to think we would make the top 4. But I think I've got much more chance of seeing Lord Lucan on Shergar as I am to us to make the top 4. But I would love to be proved wrong. I think we've got a problem, and it is surmountable, and we might well do it. But we've got a problem to make the other 2 European competitions. I mean, we are 9th. We're 9th with 2 games coming up like Chelsea and Arsenal. And who's above us? Nottingham Forest with your mate centre forward, Chris Wood.
Chris Wood.
Now, they are supposed to be going in a relegation fight this season. They're actually above St James's Park. They're above Newcastle United at St James's Park, and they're above it, and only having lost once, and we've lost twice in the league. So, I mean, that's a very sobering thought to me. Nottingham Forest above us.
Yeah, it is. It is. John Askew says, "John, what do you think of 4-3-3? Does Eddie need to be more flexible? How many genuinely quality performances have we played since Boxing Day?" Yeah, I mean, John, I thought at times we almost seemed to drift into a 4-4-2 at the weekend, which I was quite happy about. Gordon and Isak, but Isak and Gordon are both just Yeah, Gordon played well, but just his finishing was appalling. As was Isaacs, just didn't have the rub of the green. Other days, all of those chances go in. Newcastle win 5-1, but it just isn't going in for us at the moment. Is the formation a problem, John? I think he is trying to be more flexible.
Yes, yes. I just wish you'd be more flexible in the transfer market and let some people go. I mean, is there anybody that he's willingly let go? He didn't want Minter to go. He didn't want Anderson to go. He didn't want Dummett and Richie to go in the summer. If we'd been in Europe, he would have offered them new contracts. He doesn't want Callum Wilson to go, and he said publicly he doesn't want Almeida to go. Who the heck does he want to go?
Is he going to say that though, John? Is he going to say it? Is he going to say,
Yes.
I wanted them to go just in case he moves to another club and ends up wanting to buy them again?
I take totally and utterly what you're saying. But there's a way around it, where you can waffle like heck, and he's very, very good at that. And so is me, and so is you. We're very good at that. You can waffle without saying that you want them to stay.
Yeah.
You can talk your way out of it. And really, when you watch Eddie, and I mean, what I'm hearing behind the scenes as well, he really does want them to stay because he thinks he's got such a wonderful bunch of lads who are great for morale and great for the dressing room and great on the banter day to day. How often have we heard that about Callum Wilson? How great he is round the club and how he smiles and how he's full of fun and how he's. By the way, we keep getting told he's full of positivity. I wonder how positive he is tonight. Like if he's had another setback.
He's still getting paid, John. He's still getting paid.
No wonder he's positive. Then that must be the answer. But you know where I'm coming from. At some stage, we have got to let people go and let people go that's going to make a couple of quid. Not let Gillespie go if the five goalkeepers because he's fifth, because you're not going to get two and tuppence check. You've got to let somebody go that's going to make money, and then you've got to go and bring people in. And if I hear again about what a wonderful dressing room we've got, full of laughs and camaraderie and all for one and one for all, I don't go and sit for an hour and a half and watch the boys smile in the dressing room. I go on a Saturday and I want to smile at full time on a Saturday. I just think, don't get me wrong, I'm not being too negative. I think we've got an awful lot going for us. I think Eddie Howe's done an unbelievable job at Newcastle United. For 2/3 of the time since the takeover, we've been terrific in the transfer market. It's just that we've suddenly stalled. And maybe we just did too much too soon, getting fourth top in about our third season, getting fourth top, making the Champions League and making a Wembley final because we all thought we showboat from here on in. But I find it galling that Aston Villa, that is not one of my favourite clubs, have not only caught us up but overtaken us from the same sort of start as we had. So, it's all right saying, well, it's difficult to match Liverpool and Arsenal and Man City, and by Jove, it is. But it shouldn't be difficult for us to match Aston Villa, but we're finding it difficult this season.
Certainly are. Alan says, John, we need 3 big signings in January to have any chance at top 4, simply to motivate the top players at the club to improve their mindset going forward. And he also says, John, I've seen the Invisible Man more than I've seen Wilson. Surely his second season ticket at the RVI must be up for renewal now. And John, this was an interesting one from Tom Dixon. He said, if Mitsula doesn't get a run out in the first team, would you consider loaning him out? We've only seen him against Wimbledon and briefly in substitute appearances. I mean, have you seen enough there, John, in him to suggest that there might be a player in there?
I think there might be a player, but not for this season, Steve. I think he's one for the future. He might well be one for the future. The club must be convinced that he is. And Mad Dog was convinced he is because he worked with him at Sheffield United. But it is obvious that Eddie Howe doesn't see Sule as somebody that can come off the bench and change a game, like Wilson, when he was fit, could. He doesn't see him like that because we were gasping for somebody to come out and score a goal at Everton when it was 0-0 and were pulverising them, and he didn't even get on as a sub. And we were gasping when we were 1-0 down to Brighton for somebody to come off the bench and score, and he got on in the 90th minute. He got on as the board went up, telling us how many minutes of injury time we would play. So he should have been bought and sent out on loan to a championship club. But because we were so in trouble for centre forwards, we kept him here as third choice. But we may as well not have done. How often has he been used in the Premier League? Usula, how many minutes has he had in the Premier League for us? Virtually nothing. And we haven't seen Wilson at all. It's been terrible mismanagement. And I'm not talking about the manager. I'm talking about everybody, from the chief scout to the director of football, Dan Ashworth, before it become Paul Mitchell. Yes, Eddie in there as well. We have not addressed the situation. We've been reactive when we needed to be proactive.
Wasted 15 million. We need players for now, not 2 years down the line.
Correct.
If he's lucky, says Ian. And Gary says every manager's got his strengths and his weaknesses. What does John think Eddie's strengths and weaknesses are? I think we've already touched on his weaknesses. Doesn't like to sell players.
I think his strengths is man management. He is terrific at getting the best out of players. He's as good at man management as the two greatest I've seen with Newcastle, which is Joe Harvey and Kevin Keegan. He is good and meticulous and thorough on the training ground, which is absolutely imperative. He is dedicated to the club. I think he spends 24 hours thinking about Newcastle, and if there was 25 hours in a day, he would still be thinking about Newcastle. So they always say, I think if there's minuses, and everybody's got minuses, I have, you have, everybody at St. James's Park has, it's called human nature. But if he's got minuses, he's too loyal for too long to some players, and that can produce a stubbornness. And they are things that are impacting right now on the team.
Yeah, I would agree. I'll take one more question before I look ahead to Chelsea. Donald says, question, if Dubravka goes in the summer, John, should we try and get Keller, as it is rumoured he will leave in the summer? I mean, if Dubravka goes, we're going to need another keeper.
Yeah, even though we've got 5 now, because none of them are good enough apart from Pope. And Dubravka's not good enough. He's been a wonderful servant, and I'm delighted what he's done for us, and he'll go with my absolute blessing and thanks. But he's not the answer. This Keller is a terrific goalkeeper. He was wonderful again last night for Liverpool when he's standing in, because number one's injured. He will go, and whoever gets him will be blessed with a top goalkeeper. But I'll tell you what, wherever he goes, Steve, he won't go as a number 2, because he's been that at Liverpool and he's sick of it. He believes he's a number 1, and when he gets a new club, it'll be as a number 1. And will Newcastle make him number 1 ahead of Pope? I doubt it. So I would love to get him, but I think from his point of view, he'll want the number 1.
Okay, I love this. Mark Bayer says, I've taken a shot of whiskey every time John's made reference to Lord Lucan today. He says, I'm smashed now.
Well, I can imagine. I'm smashed just thinking of why I'm getting so worked up and heated up about this. I'll have to throw myself in a tub of ice cubes at the end of the show, I think.
I love that. Okay, Newcastle United play their first of 2 games against Chelsea this coming Sunday. 2:00 kickoff, live on Sky Sports. 3,000 tickets allocated to Newcastle have sold out, including mine. I'll be there, looking forward to it. And Callum Wilson will not return to the squad for the first time this season. He's injured again. Out for 3 games by the sounds of it, according to Craig Hope. But Kieran Trippier, Sven Botman and Jamal Lascelles are all out as well. So he's got a bit of company in the treatment room, along with Matt Targett. Nobody knows where he is either. Maybe Eddie will tell us tomorrow, or maybe not. Don't forget, Joe Linton and Dan Byrne are both 1 booking away from an automatic 1-match suspension. That's going to come sooner rather than later, you would imagine, with both of them players. I can't see them doing a Bruno and lasting through past the Christmas period. As for Chelsea, well, they are 2-0 up at the moment. They are playing tonight. Marcus Bettinelli, Ben Chilwell, Wesley Fofana, Romeo Lavia and Cole Palmer weren't registered to appear in that competition, so they won't be playing at this moment in time. Levi Colwill, Moses Caicedo, Nicholas Jackson, Reece James, Malu Gusta and Mari Kellyman didn't travel, so they should be available to face us at the weekend. It is live on Sky Sport. It is a 2 o'clock kickoff, and the referee, Simon Hooper, hasn't had a game this season with us. Quite a lucky referee for us in many ways. We had him in the last game of the season, last season against Brentford, where we won 4-2. And when we played Chelsea in November 2023, he was in charge of that game and we won 4-2. 4-2 will do nicely again for Newcastle on Sunday. Yes, please. And on VAR, John, it is the best a man can get. It is Jared Gillette. How do you see this going, John? I'm gonna stick me cards on the table in front of you, John. I am going for a 1-1 draw this weekend. I've seen Newcastle play at Chelsea on lots of occasions, certainly over the last few years. Always been interesting games. 3-2 last year, but we've had a couple of narrow defeats and we've had a couple of draws, John. One in the League Cup, one in the league. I think it's going to be another tight affair. The table tells you that Newcastle don't score many goals, but they don't concede many either. I'm going to go with Chelsea being a bit tired and having an off day in front of goals, certainly. So I'm going to go 1-1, John, and I'd be happy with that.
I would be absolutely delighted with that. I really would. And that's the most I'm hoping for. I cannot find it in me, although it's in my heart. I can't find it in my head to be able to say Newcastle will win, because I think that'll be difficult or nearly impossible on current form. I mean, Chelsea are no longer the joke that we all laughed about them hoovering up every player that was available, etc., etc. The new manager has done a terrific job with them. It's got to be said. He come from Leicester. A lot of people saying he was only a championship manager. He's done terrific. They are the youngest team in the Premier League. When they played against Liverpool, the average age was just over 23. They are good. They're quality going forward. They give you a chance at the back, which is the hope that we might get a draw. My odds tell me that we're going to lose, not massively necessarily, but lose nonetheless. My heart is telling me that we can get a draw, like you say, but I don't see us winning. I do think that we might have a better chance of beating them up here in the League Cup on Wednesday. But I mean, I'm not surprised if they spread the load tonight in view of them playing us on Sunday, because they've got so many quality players in so many positions. They can spread the load a lot easier than we can. So I'm tempted, and I want to say that we'll get a draw, but I am fearing the worst.
Okay, as always, great stuff. Thanks to everybody in the chat. And whenever you pass your best on to Malcolm, we always pass it on as well. So don't worry. Yeah, John and I, are often in touch with his good lady. So I don't think he's watching the show at the moment. But let's hope he gets better. But it is going to be a long haul, I think, before he gets his op that he needs to get himself back on his feet, which is what we all want. We want to see the legend back. Not just on here, back in the Chronicle, but also back on his feet and back in full health. But we will be back again next week. Looking forward to it. John, because we'll be back on Thursday, cup match, I'm going to go Newcastle to win by 2-1.
Yeah, as I said in the build-up to this one just a few moments ago, I think our better chances on Wednesday. And I've got a feeling we'll just lose on Saturday, but they will get through next Wednesday.
Top man, see you next week. Take care.
Take care, kids. Bye-bye.